Start the clock.
Good afternoon. At the tone, time will be
Real time.
I decided to attend. It was amazing to hear students on both the undergraduate and graduate level speak about their educational experiences and journeys inside and outside the classroom. Their voices were certainly heard by all those in attendance and government officials like myself. Hopefully, it will impact the policy making that occurs within our legislative chamber. As the Senator of California, I would like to give proper recognition to Loyola Marymount University for not only hosting the event, but for cultivating such young leaders in the African American community. Thank you.
Colleagues, I rise today to express support for my Concealed Carry Equality Act. I'm going to be doing so today through a story that introduces a new narrative, one that you may not have heard from, as Senator Rubio said, the greatest super PAC of all, the mainstream media. And this is going to be key when it comes to considering how we defend those who we love, how we defend what means most to us. So there was a story that appeared in the Lone Star News website. Virginia Gonzalez, who was a high school teacher out of Goliad, Texas, was walking home one night. She teaches high school, as I said, when a man came up to her and attempted to rob her. He had a knife in his hand. He pushed her to the ground, at which point she reached into her purse very quickly and pulled out a .38 caliber revolver. The man fled, and at which point she was able to then retrieve her things and get home safely. Now this simple story of a botched robbery, illustrates one of the big points that I've been trying to make in my legislation. That is, law-abiding citizens deserve the right to protect themselves. And this isn't a story you'll hear in the mainstream media. We often hear about these tragedies, which of course goes to underscore a key point. Criminals don't respect gun-free zones. Criminals will never respect gun-free zones. And by putting laws on things like how you can purchase a gun, it only makes it harder for law-abiding citizens to purchase means to which to defend themselves. And so I share this story with you today with hopes that you can at least reflect. And I know my colleagues across the aisle shake their heads. I know they look at me and say, "Oh, you're just a gun nut from Texas." Yeah, I am. Yeah, I am. I'm a firm. If standing for the Second Amendment is wrong, I don't want to be right. So take this story to heart. Take Virginia's story to heart. When you think, as you walk home, I know many of you have armed guards, which is ironic enough. But as you walk home, think about not having those armed guards, not having that measure. Do you truly feel safe in a bad neighborhood? Would you truly feel comfortable putting your family in a situation to see them come to harm? Would you rather take it into your own hands? I yield the balance of my time. Thank you.
America sets the standard for the world. So, for this reason, I want to thank Senator Kirk, Senator Ernst, Senator Barrasso, and Senator Rubio for their continued fight for clean water in this nation. This isn't a fight we should continue to have. And as many of you know, Gold King's mine in Colorado has had a leak and has polluted the Animas River and now the San Juan River, and it has reached New Mexico. So, I have just written a bill, the Accessible Clean Water Act, and I'm looking for your support. This is simply a bill to have the EPA pay for water treatment plants because they did not take the steps required to look for this leak and clean it up afterwards. So, with your support, I would like to have America be the country that doesn't have to fight for clean water anymore.
I would like to talk about a few things. First, I would like to agree with some of my fellow senators. Yesterday's debate, or the questions that I received by CNBC, were completely irreprehensible and I think a disservice to our American society. Furthermore, I would also like to talk about my filibuster on the horrible budget deal. I am not for signing a blank check to our president and giving Congress the ability to unlimitedly raise the debt ceiling. I think that we have to be fiscally responsible. We need to cut spending and we need to cut taxes. Furthermore, I urge both the right and the left to look at my Senate Bill 25 that I have co-authored with Mr. Bernie Sanders and Mr. Martin Henright, as well as co-sponsors from people from Ted Cruz to Mrs. Patty Murray. This is a bipartisan bill. If you're liberal, you understand that the drug laws are wrong through your means. If you're conservative, you understand that this is a violation of our 10th Amendment. These are states' rights issues. We both agree these laws are wrong. We can pass this bill. Also, again, if you're on the left, you claim that you want to cut taxes for the lower and middle class families. If you're on the right, you say you want to cut taxes, period. All of you should be supporting Senate Bill number 27, which will cut taxes for everybody. And yes, this will definitely impact the middle and low class families more as a result of it. So thank you for your time, and thank you for the bipartisan support and work that we are doing to pass meaningful reform. Thank you.
Good morning, colleagues. I'm going to be leading an effort to address a number of concerns identified during the implementation of the Dodd-Frank Act. We now have better information on how financial regulation should be tailored to help prevent another crisis and reduce systemic risk. We also know where it should be paced back to provide relief to smaller and regional financial institutions, and where transparency and accountability is needed in our regulated agencies. The Dodd-Frank reforms have made too big to fail banks even bigger. Our collective goal should be to preserve the soundness of our financial regulations. Thank you.
In light of the debate last night, I would like to talk to you all a little bit about the debt crisis. I do not feel that it is an issue that has been addressed in the appropriate manner, and this is not something that can continue to be ignored. Washington must do more to tackle the debt crisis. The American people expect results. From a business perspective, the U.S. needs to stop looking at Washington's income statement as it only provides a snapshot of the situation, and look at the entire balance sheet. By doing so, the country will see a much more complete picture of what can be done to solve this debt crisis now and in the future. Going forward, we must cut wasteful spending by eliminating redundant government agencies and duplicative programs. We should return to the regular appropriations process and allow Congress to debate any new spending requests that differ from the approved budget. We need to revitalize the economy by lowering the corporate tax rate and eliminating the taxation of repatriated earnings. These measures would create a level playing field and provide certainty for our business community that is currently reluctant to invest. Additionally, we need to unlock our full energy potential and responsibly tap into every natural resource at our disposal. Americans know you cannot pay off a large amount of debt in the blink of an eye. You have to pay it down over time, like a mortgage or a credit card bill. Similarly, tackling our national debt won't happen overnight. It should be our top priority every single day. This is Congress's make or break moment, and the American people expect results. In fact, they are demanding it. Again, I bring this to your attention today to get you all thinking about this serious issue. I welcome your input, and I hope to continue this conversation outside of the room. Thank you.
Okay,
I make a discharge petition motion.
To recognize your motion, what bill is this for?
S25, the Sentencing Reform Act.
I recognize it, so it will be put on the floor agenda for the next floor session. I would recognize Senator Isaacson for presenting your agenda. I understand that Senate Bill 14 is still being debated, as we did not vote to end debate last week. So please.
Okay, so the agenda
We're going first in debate on Senate Bill 14. We will then be moving to Senate Bill 6, and time providing, we will finish with Senate Bill 13.
I recognize the motion to table the bill.
Excuse me, Murphy never,
I'm sorry, Mr. Point. There was a second for the motion. Can we have a roll call, please?
Everyone here, we're just going to postpone indefinitely.
This requires a majority vote.
Roll call vote. Senator Nato? Yay. Rosso?
Yes.
Bennett?
yeah.
Blunt? Boxer? Yes. Brown? Yay. Collins? Yay. Parker? Yay. Cotton? Yay. Cruz? Yay. Ernst? Yay. Franklin? Frank? Yay. Graham? Half? Heinrich? Heller? Isaacson? Kirk? Manchin? Markey? Markey?
Oh, yeah.
Berkeley?
Yay.
Murphy?
Yay.
Murray? Yay. Nelson? Paul? Reed? Yay. Rubio? Sanders?
Yeah.
Schumer? Shelby? Custer?
Yay.
Bitter? Yay. Right. With a vote of 31 yeas, the motion to table passes.
Bill has been tabled indefinitely. I now recognize Senator Isaacson again to lead Senate business.
For Bill 6, we will first recognize the majority floor leader, Senator Corker. Senator Corker. Corker. Maybe now.
Good afternoon, Senators. So this is addressing the Returning Public Education Assessments and Standards to Local Authority Act. Our end goal is to provide school districts with the flexibility and responsibility for developing accountability systems. To briefly address the Every Child Achieves Act, it provided states with increased flexibility and responsibility for developing accountability systems, which garnered bipartisan support because it is one step further from federally imposed high-pressure systems. High-pressure systems that resulted in more dropouts and lower retention rates, therefore, one step closer to where we want to be. The legislative process is more often than not one of small victories that work toward overall transformation of this great nation's shortcomings from which no nation is exempt. The ECAA loosened the federal government's tight grip on education assessment and standards, opening the door a little wider for the elimination of the AYP model, which has yielded no data on its efficacy. All proof that AYP is working is correlational and not supported by research. The problem remains that there are still federally required tests and still federally required measures of student and school performance. The U.S. has more than 14,000 school districts. Averaged out, that is 280 school districts per state. Each school district varies immensely. local school districts and the school boards, parents, and families beneath their umbrella can better and more quickly answer to the needs of their children and students. Every community is unique and requires different education methods for their students. Let us return education to the hands of local school districts so that they can cater to the needs of their communities more effectively and efficiently. Standardized tests are an example of federal oversight gone wrong in the realm of education policy. Standardized tests have not improved education by any means. In 2011, the National Research Council found in a study that took place over 9 years that the emphasis on testing yielded little learning progress and caused significant harm. No Child Left Behind is a demonstration of what happens when tests are misused. Negative consequences include narrowing the curriculum, teaching to the test, pushing students out of school, and driving teachers out of the profession, undermining student engagement and school climate. Lastly, students from low-income and minority group backgrounds, English language learners, and students with disabilities are more likely to be denied diplomas, retained in grade, placed on a lower track, or unnecessarily put in remedial educational programs. Returning public education assessments and standards to school districts would benefit low-income and minority group backgrounds. The Citizens NCLB is supposed to benefit, but does not. I now yield the balance of my time to Senator Isaacson.
When I was a member of the U.S. House, I was privileged to help draft No Child Left Behind, which helps strengthen this nation's public schools by providing them with the necessary resources to give children a quality education. However, it became clear over time that improvements were necessary, which is why I supported the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, which ensured that accountability systems are truly designed and implemented by the state, not the federal government. Once again, it became clear that we needed to strengthen the role of local governments in enforcing standards. So I supported the Every Child Achieves Act, a bipartisan piece of legislation which addressed issues such as accountability and testing requirements, distribution and requirements for grants, fiscal accountability requirements, and the evaluation of teachers. Education, we can all agree, is a crucial issue which most directly impacts our future, our children. That is why I have encouraged our government to look at the legislation we have passed and continue to work earnestly to improve it through new legislation and amendments, as I have proven time and time again. We as a body have been called once more to improve our education system. By putting the power back into the school district's hands, we are giving the power back to our parents and those most directly involved in the student's life, which are the best positioned to make the most important decisions regarding the education of their children. I beg of you to all consider moving forward with the times for what's best for our youth and our future. And I highly encourage support on the Returning Public Education Assessments to Local Authority Act. I yield the remainder of my time to Senator Barrasso.
Good afternoon, fellow senators. First and foremost, I would like to emphasize the importance of returning authority back to state and especially local agencies when it comes to education. Local control is paramount for improving education, as it's up to parents and teachers, not bureaucrats, to decide about schools. Opponents to this piece of legislation may ask how, without standardized tests, we will be able to know how students and programs are doing. To that, I must simply point out that standardized tests offer just a small piece of the picture when it comes to the evaluating the education of America's youth. Instead, careful observation and documentation of student work and behaviors by trained teachers is more helpful than a one-time test. Assessment based on student performance on real learning tasks is more useful and accurate in measuring achievement, providing more information for teaching than multiple choice achievement tests. We must understand that each educational district within the United States is unique and has its own needs, standards, and requirements. For this reason, it is up to us as a legislative body to give more time to those who are most actively involved in the education of our children, the teachers and administrators at the local or district level. The Returning Public Education Assessments and Standards to Local Authority Act does just that. Let us give the American youth the education they deserve by giving their teachers and administrators the means to do so. Thank you, God bless. And now you will balance my time to Senator Prince.
short, eliminates one facet of the No Child Left Behind Act, the Adequate Yearly Progress Model, in an effort to provide school districts with the flexibility to develop accountability systems, because they know exactly what standards fit their students best. Standardized tests do not provide this accountability because multiple choice exams like the STAR measure only on the surface, so they cannot provide meaningful accountability. As a result, teachers end up teaching only what will help their students perform well in these federally mandated exams, rather than providing more in-depth and comprehensive instruction. Returning public education to local authority will solve this problem. And yes, I have supported increased flexibility given to the states as a better alternative to the high-pressure systems that were in place. And that is because increased flexibility to the states brought us one step further away from federal control. This bill takes us another step further away from federal control of our public education by placing authority with school districts where it belongs. And so it is imperative that it is passed today for the benefit of our children. Thank you.
Would you recognize the minority format?
Thank you all. I think we can all agree that education needs a lot of work in this country. No Child Left Behind was well-intentioned, but clearly has come to a point where we all know there is a lot of work that needs to be done. I was very proud to co-sponsor and help write the Every Child Achieves Act with the help of Senator Lamar Alexander from Tennessee that we passed this summer in July. The point of this act is, as Senator Isaacson clarified in her speech, to look at No Child Left Behind and really pull it apart and see what things we can come together on and improve quickly and going forward that we think will make lasting implications to better the education system in this country. This act had bipartisan support from many senators in our midst, including the majority of the senators on the right. Senator Ayotte, Barrasso, Collins, Corker, Cotton, Ernst, Hatch, Heller, Isaacson, Kirk, and Perdue all were very vehement supporters of this act, and we were so grateful for their support. We feel that since we have barely had 3 months for this act to take place and start beginning to implement the systems that it designed, it's too soon to try to issue another massive overhaul of education in this country. The Every Child Achieves Act is a bipartisan education policy reform that expands state responsibility over schools, taking it a little bit deeper than the federal level and giving it really back to the states to reduce the federal test-based accountability system of the No Child Left Behind Act. The bill went through the Senate Health Committee, was very intensely reviewed and rewritten with the help of Senator Alexander. He explained that the bill will continue federal assessments of student learning, but really focuses on giving states the authority to act based on these results. And when we're talking about state-level education, we're talking about local school districts creating programming and the state overseeing them to make sure that everything is fair and it's giving equal access to education to children who are typically not necessarily represented by parents on school boards who have time to take out of their busy work weeks to come and sit and talk about how to overhaul education in their districts. And so this really, it's not about the states creating massive standards that are going to impose on school districts who need specialized education. It's really about focusing on helping districts create accountability standards that are fair to everyone.
Here.
So I would like to yield my time to Senator Franken. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I appreciate Senator Corker's work to attempt to improve our nation's education systems and opportunities, especially with emphasis on educational inequality for English language learners and lower SES students and students with disabilities. However, leaving the school districts to themselves only worsens the education inequity in our country, with districts' economics and demographics varying so drastically. With that being said, I would like to insert an amendment into this bill. I would like to insert my bill, actually, number 23, which is the Anti-LGBT Student Discrimination Amendment, which aims to amend the educational, yes?
Is there a second on the motion?
I second the motion.
Which aims to amend the Equal Educational Opportunities Act of 1974 to add gender, identity, and sexual orientation into the list of bases where students cannot be discriminated against in the public education system.
Okay, so can we have a roll call please for this amendment or motion form?
I will now take a roll call vote for this amendment. Senator Ayo? Nay. Brasso?
Nay.
Bennett?
Yay.
Blunt? Yay. Boxer? Yay. Brown? Yay. Collins? Abstain. Parker? Nay. Cotton? Nay. Cruz?
Nay.
Ernst? Nay. Rankin? Yay. Graham? Koch?
Nay.
Eimer?
Yay.
Keller?
Nay.
Isaacson? Nay. Kirk? Yay. Manchin? Yay. Markey?
Yay.
Merkley?
Yay.
Murphy?
Yay.
Murray? Yay. Nelson?
Yay.
Paul?
Nay.
Purdue? Yay. Reed? Yay. Rubio?
Nay.
Sanders?
Yay.
Schumer?
Yes.
Shelby?
Yay.
Tester?
Yay.
Litter? Nay.
Questions? With a tie of 16 to 6, I'm sorry. Yes, with a tie of 16 to 16. One abstention. This does not pass. There is not a simple majority. Furthermore, the chair declares a recess of 2 minutes. Thank you. We are not, that was not the point. The point was the senator stopped speaking, and at that point, the speaker was not interrupted. She was not interrupted by Senator Isaacson's motion for a petition for closure, meaning what just happened. Point of order. Parliamentary procedure. Senator Isaacson did not interrupt.
May I state my point of order?
Yes.
So, Senator Frazier was speaking. We motioned for a vote. The vote has happened. The floor goes back to Senator Franken. That is Senate procedure. Thank you.
Senator Franken, parliamentary procedure is clear. The senator stopped speaking. Senator Isaacson did not interrupt the speaker. And the Senator Isaacson has made a petition for file closure.
Point of order. Point of order.
How many times
Because
did you
Senator
say
was
point of
not
order?
speaking does not mean that she yielded the floor. She was not speaking because we were at a recess. Then why did you getting this vote?
Point of order, she never yielded her time.
That's it. You're right.
All right. I just wanted to say a few more things about LGBTQ students in our country. Suicide amongst all youths 18 to 24 is actually the second leading cause of death. However, for LGBTQ students, it is the first cause of death. LGBT youth are 4 times more likely to commit suicide than their heterosexual peers, and almost half of transgender youth have seriously considered suicide in the past year. Yes. Thank you. Each episode of LGBT victimization, for example, harassment, violence, things that happen in schools, bullying, increases self-harming behavior by 2.5 times on average for LGBT youth. With that being said, I'd like to yield my time to Senator Boxer.
Hello, Senators. Hello, As the Senator of California.
Order. Continue, Speaker.
As the Senator of California, I have seen the impact affirmative consent has made within our schools and with our students. It is one of the best legislations the Governor of California, Jerry Brown, signed into law. Affirmative consent education can help students to understand that any sexual activity cannot take place without a clear yes from both parties. It is a knowing, voluntary, and mutual decision amongst all participants to engage in sexual activity. This will ultimately help to prevent rape and other forms of sexual assault from occurring in our country. Affirmative consent and the education of it helps to create a safer and respectful educational environment for our nation's students. This is what education is about. It is about teaching skills and practices that can be applied in their daily lives. Therefore, the education of affirmative consent in sexual education courses will teach our nation's students and youth practices that will help them to have healthy relationships with others in the present and in the near future. Now, to understand this more clearly, I'm going to explain to you some statistics that are within our nation. Oh, lies I tell. I'm going to propose the amendment. I would like to amend Section 3 of the Returning Public Education Assessments and Standards to Local Authority Act. Following Section 3, subsection C, number 1, I would like to add the following. To require public high schools, colleges, and universities, as well as those in which receive federal government funding, to teach affirmative consent to their students in sexual education courses. I would also like to thank, while doing this, the following senators for supporting or co-sponsoring this bill. Senator Schumer, Senator Murray, Ernst, Manchin, Kirk, Murphy, Franken, Ayo, Nelson, Heller, Sanders, Henrich, Reed, and Brown. I yield my time back.
Okay, so we have, order please. There's been a motion for the amendment. Again, what is the proposed amendment?
The proposed
You'll be fine.
The amendment is to require public schools, public high schools, colleges, and universities, as well as those in which receive federal government funding, to teach affirmative consent to their students in sexual education.
Okay, can we please have a roll call for this vote? They just moved this after this. She did that after she spoke.
She was gonna say two.
Not say two, she said excuse me. There's currently a roll call going on. I recognize Senator to debate this proposed amendment.
I'd like to discuss, this amendment. First of all, sexual assault is a huge issue in our country, especially on college campuses. Also in the military, I'm currently co-sponsoring bills to make sure the court-martial is a better weapon in terms of prosecuting sexual assault in the military. I've been a huge advocate for ensuring that this is something that we can get sentenced and make sure that all the victims are offered enough care, and that anybody can commit sexual assault is duly prosecuted. But when it comes to enforcing these standards at a federal level and ensuring that these courses are mandated by the Department of Education, I'm deeply bothered when you have a Washington bureaucrat telling what should be taught in a sexual assault course to students nationwide, knowing that our situations and our backgrounds of our students are drastically different. The life experiences are drastically different. and we have this kind of one-size-fits-all style of teaching a very dynamic issue. And so, when you consider this amendment, that seems to be my main issue, which is that this isn't a one-size-fits-all approach, and you see how well a one-size-fits-all approach works, specifically in regards to education, which is why, first of all, it's important to return education to local standards and having local standards and having parents understand what is best when it comes to educating their children. And in the issue of sexual assault, it's important to make sure that those who know the community are the ones developing how best to teach it. Having a federal mandate to teach this and have those standards dictated at the federal level is all wrong and does not allow for all the complexities that this issue holds. And so I must speak out in opposition to this amendment because it's just essentially the wrong approach for such a complex, dynamic issue. And we've seen how well Washington works at controlling standards. So I urge a no vote on this on this amendment. And I yield the remainder of my time to Senator Madison.
No. So I just wanted to talk about this bill.
Point of order.
We cannot yield the remainder of its time because this is a debate.
You have to recognize me.
You have to recognize this.
All right, I can do that. First of all, I recognize Ted Cruz. In the Senate, debate is unlimited. I don't know if you know. So.
Point of order, that is what the Senator is saying. This time is unlimited. You cannot yield it. You have to recognize the next speaker.
Point of order. Point of
Parliamentary
procedure.
Point of parliamentary inquiry. Do you know the rules?
I feel very attacked by that statement.
Senator, I see your
Well, I just feel like since we're here, we're talking about so many important things, and there's so many issues about the rules coming up. I thought I'd just take this time to start and just read them. Weeks 8 through 13, which is actually what we're in right now. Hard to believe this semester's going this fast.
What's a semester? What Congress?
The session. Back to my college days, guys. In weeks 8 through 13, SEM follows a regular schedule of business, considering bills introduced by members, and, when necessary, considering nominations by the president for positions in the judicial or executive branches.
Why is she reading from me?
The weekly schedule is summarized here with fuller discussion of each step in the sections that follow. Don't worry, guys, there's going to be more about each thing. Monday. Standing committees meet each Monday during class time to consider bills proposed by members of the session. Committee meeting time will be divided between hearings and markup sessions described below. Tuesday, every Tuesday evening, meeting space will be available.
Why are you
I'm filibustering this amendment because I am poorly I just felt as if with all this discussion of the rules, it really would benefit the entire session just to read the rules.
Or you can email them. Or you just well, you're the majority leader.
Every Tuesday evening, meeting space will be available for meetings in the majority and minority leadership. On Wednesdays, each party caucus meets during class time to discuss the upcoming floor session.
Excuse me, lobbyists, can you please go back to the gallery? Thank you.
Plan the public floor session, discuss the public agenda, or for other purposes authorized.
Keep going.
Executive
Yield for a question? Will you 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 yield for a question? I said no, yeah. Will you yield for a question?
The chair recognizes the motion to adjourn. There was a second. We go, let's get a yes. Hand up, yes to adjourn. Yes, there's a vote. Let's go. Our session.